Hey guys, welcome back to the Yuumiverse podcast. Today I have three special guests with me. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Paul from WoW Family Time.
Hi, I'm Annette.
Hi, I'm Lil John.
Nice to meet you guys. And can we go over what our main classes are real quick?
Sure, yeah, I've been maining Shaman primarily this season, Resto Shaman.
I've been doing Havoc Demon Hunter mostly.
I've been doing Discipline Priest and a lot of other ones.
Little John has a hard time picking a main.
I feel you because I also play a lot of classes and I reroll depending on the season, but this season I'm playing Disc Priest and I've actually been starting to push on my Resto Shaman and my Ret Paladin as well, and I have 10 alts. So yeah, I also feel you. I can't pick a main either. So a tradition I do on my podcast is I ask every guest how they got into WoW and like the full background and story. So why don't we start there?
I don't really know. I feel like when we were little, we played for a sec, but it was like, oh, this doesn't really work. You can't really actually do anything. And then in Dragonflight, we played a little bit, but not a whole lot. And the Warathan seems like when we actually started playing and actually doing stuff and not just like messing around and creating a bunch of new characters.
So do you remember what expansion you guys started in? Like even just dabbling around?
I don't really remember.
It's kind of the same for me.
So I think BFA was actually the first time that they played WoW. I started playing in late vanilla, right before TBC launched. I had some coworkers actually who played, and they said, "Hey, you should come join our guild." And so I started leveling a shaman and I think I got to 70 or 60 slightly before TBC launched, but not near enough to where I actually did any raiding back then or anything. I got in through Burning Crusade, and then the guild broke up. I want to say Sunwell-ish or so, and I was life had other plans for me. I played a little bit through Wrath of the Lich King, but not a lot. It's always been a very social game for me, so when I don't have friends or other people that are playing, other games usually take my time. So I didn't get back into it really until Classic happened and happened to coincide with when we were all told to stay in our houses for a year or more. And so Classic WoW was a fun way to pass the time during that. And then I dabbled a little bit in retail at that point, and they actually there was an Alterac Valley leveling event, and I didn't necessarily want to sit there for the whole time, so I let them pilot some some characters through Alterac Valley a little bit, and that was probably when they actually first played, was in BFA a little bit. Took off Shadowlands, the Maw. I couldn't defeat the Maw boss. I got in there and was like, I don't know, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like the vibe for me. And then Dragonflight came around and got into it a little bit more, basically playing as a solo player, and they dabbled a little bit. Annette can tell you about one of the Dragonflight experiences. I had them play with me, and we did LFR, and most of the time LFR doesn't have any mechanics, but what was the first LFR boss that you did, Annette?
Razagath, and it was really horrible.
Ooh.
Yeah, so she was traumatized by Razagath a little bit. It was like, I don't think this is the game for me. Little John was pretty into it. But then we started playing together as a family, or at least the three of us, and sometimes some of their little siblings. Occasionally, mommy will try to play, but she's not much of a gamer. But then, yeah, the War Within, we've been playing pretty strong. We started doing a few different dungeons towards the end of season one. And then we've kind of really actually gotten into things this season. This is the first time we've really played. I mean, this is as far as I've ever pushed in-game content, I guess. So yeah, and they've been coming along with me for a lot of the ride.
What a lovely story. So what got you guys the idea to start playing together as a family? Was that your idea, or were the kids into it as well?
Well, Little John would not want to be kept off if he had the opportunity. You know, we have to have to make sure he gets his chores done and he knows what his limitations are. And Nettie is not as she's enjoyed it, uh, but maybe not as much as Little John. And we like to do a lot of things together as a family. And this is one of those things that we have multiple different computers that can run WoW for school type stuff, and so just kind of naturally as the kids get into it, I've spun off accounts that I would use as auction house accounts back in the day to let them play and become their account one day.
That is very cute. What was your guys' favorite memories ever since starting to play the game?
Probably mine is that Nettie figured out how to do class trials, and it was real fun making a lot of them. And eventually now they're all deleted because
Because you've actually started leveling characters.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It was really fun to do Stone Vault, even if it was like just like M0 and stuff, to just do that over and over again, and that was the only dungeon that I would do.
Yeah, during season 1, we started doing heroic, just 3-manning it. Little John was tanking, I was healing, and Annette was DPSing on a hunter, and that was where we started to get a feel for what progression might feel like in the end game of WoW. So we did have a lot of fun in Stone Vault. And actually, Annette, this season, what has been your Stone Vault this season?
The Rookery for sure.
What's your favorite part about the Rookery?
I don't know, I just like it a lot. I don't like when there's a ton of bosses, so and it only has 3, so that's nice. And I just like how it is.
That makes a lot of sense. I would say for a DPS, last boss is probably fun because you get a burn phase and you get to do a lot of damage. I think that was the first video I watched of you guys doing. Yeah, I first discovered you guys on YouTube before my husband saw you guys' stream, and I remember you guys doing Rookery. I think it was like a +8 or something, and yeah, I just remember seeing you guys have fun on the last boss. That was really cool.
Did we time it? Do you remember?
I think you did, yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, that was
There's
really
been
cool.
there's been many we haven't.
Oh, I mean, my husband said he's played with you guys a couple times, I believe.
Yeah, well, just the other day, he tanked a 13 top for us, and Little John trolled the key a little bit. He's never been able to pick a main really so far. We're seeing what he does for season 3. But Little John, what did you decide to do for that Theater of Pain 13 the other day?
I decided to do Rep Paladin Herald of the Sun.
Oh.
Against all warnings, he wants to redeem the non-meta stuff. That's what he feels like his calling is right now.
I respect that a lot because have you guys heard of the Break the Meta event that Raider.io does?
No, I don't know that they would have actually. Have you heard of Break the Meta, Little John? Yeah, I don't think we've talked about it a whole lot.
Oh, okay, so but that might that sounds like an event that you guys might enjoy if you like breaking meta, because it's basically like an event where you try to push keys as a full non-meta comp, and you can only play with classes that are not considered meta depending on the season. And then there's always like a list of specs that you can play that are not meta, and if you are able to push to a certain point, I don't remember exactly what it is, I believe it's like all 12s or whatever, then you can get a special achievement, or
You can get like a banner on
yeah, a
Raider
banner
IO.
on your Raider.io. So there's cool stuff like that that you guys can try out maybe next season. I believe it already passed this season, but they have that every season on Raider.io. So if you guys are interested on that, maybe you should try it out.
Yeah, no, I think we probably will. We've ended up because Annette's been playing Havoc Demon Hunter. We usually end up with a non-meta comp unless Anetti's taken the day off. So
Yeah, very cool.
yeah. Do you guys want to ask some questions to Tachi and Katsa?
How did you guys start playing WoW and stuff like that?
I want to let
Like what
Tachi
And I think
talk
her
about this.
story begins with mine. So, I'm not from the U.S. I'm originally from China, and when I moved here when I was in 3rd grade, it's like around I don't remember how old that would be, but when I moved here, I had a friend who suggested me to try the free trial at the time, and it was I think getting to the point of End of Wrath at that point in like 2008, and I didn't really speak much English at the time either. I was still learning in school, and my friend was like, try out this World of Warcraft game. And I already have seen this game because it has already been popularized in China, but like they're kind of like 1 or 2 expansions behind, right, at the release time. So like when the US servers were on Wrath, they were still like playing vanilla at the time. So have seen the game, but then I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. They have this free trial system where if you make an account with just an email, you can play up to level 20. So I made a Tauren Warrior at the time because and at the time I didn't think too much about like what was meta or anything. I just thought Taurens are big and buff, right? And if you're big and buff, surely you are the strongest. So I picked the Tauren Warrior and I just played. Did some like dungeons at the time. You had like Ragefire and Wailing Caverns and whatever. And when I hit level 20, I was kind of like, well, I kind of got stuck, right? Because the free trial also didn't include a lot of the stuff that's like very of the MMO type. Like you can't party with people, you can't trade things or stuff. So you're basically like kind of like the modern day like solo Southbound type stuff. So at the time, but I was also like a kid still, like pretty much just like you guys. And I didn't have like the financial freedom to, and also like obviously from like an Asian household, video games are kind of, you know, taboo in the uh younger ages. So then I had to get my brother who already played a lot of video games, and like I already knew a lot of video games from him because he played like Warcraft 3 and Counter Strike when I was like still in China. So I got him to get a subbed account for us both to play on. And at the time, we started as a druid, but then I got bored of the druid. And then I thought Death Knight is very cool because it was Wrath, right? So then I got the druid to level 55 because the requirement was you got to get a character to level 55 before you start because the Death Knight starts at level 55. So then the moment I got my druid to level 55, I hopped on the Death Knight and I started leveling the Death Knight all the way up to level 80. And then I played up until I did like some dungeons, like basically like the weekly heroics and stuff, farmed emblems, and then did like even like some ICC. So like when we played in the classic round, I remember like doing some of the ICC bosses. And then I played a stint in MOP with like a guild, and they were like pretty laid back casual that just like farmed old content for like cosmetics and stuff. So it wasn't really too much. And then after that, I haven't played for a long time, all the way up until the 2018 release of Classic. And at the time, I have just met Katsa here through university in our League of Legends club because we play League of Legends competitively. And then I was kind of burned out of League of Legends at the time because it was a lot of stress to do it competitively. So then I was looking for like a pastime escape from League of Legends. So I was like, all right, you know what? Let's try out classic World of Warcraft because it's all the hype right now. So then I hopped on and did some leveling, and I got her to play with it, and also one of our other friends from the league club also joined us. So then we had a ragtag group of 3, and yeah, and then we started our adventure from there. So I'll let Katsa take over from here to tell her side of the story.
Yeah, sure. So, basically, I had never played WoW until I met Tachi, and like he said, we used to play collegiate in League of Legends, which is like college level competition. But after that, we quit, and then we started playing the original Classic, which launched in 2019, I believe. And then that was my first time getting into WoW. And we didn't expect anything at first. Like, we were pretty casual, just leveling, and we didn't even know you could be competitive in WoW until we got to a point where we were raiding, and we started with MC, Molten Core. And then when we got to almost BWL, that is when we discovered parses. So we were like, oh, you can actually be competitive and play on a ladder and try to like rank against other players. And then that's when I really got into like that competitive scene in WoW Classic. And that wasn't even retail yet. But then we got into this guild that's speedran. For those of you who don't know, that is basically you try to clear the raid as fast as possible and try to get a record clear time. And that is the first time that we got into competitive WoW. So we were ranked pretty high on the ladder on our server, and we would always race for realm firsts. So basically clearing the raid, being the first guild in your server to clear the raid. And that's kind of what we were into back in Classic. And then when TBC came around, we became the new leaders of our guild because our old guild leaders quit. And then that's when I became the GM and he became the raid leader. And we led our guild all the way until the end of TBC, which we did end up getting a Sunwell server first. That was my favorite raid, by the way, in Classic. I loved Sunwell. And then in Wrath, it was actually like throwback for Tachi because he played Wrath when he was a kid. And he talked about how he remembers the bosses and everything. But for me, that was my first time playing Wrath. So I wanted to play through the entire expansion. And then towards the end of the expansion, I think most of our friends quit. And I don't know if you guys played a lot of Classic, but if you don't have friends to play with in Classic, it's just not fun. So that was when we decided that we were going to quit Wrath, and we weren't sure what we were going to do yet. But we've always kind of dabbled into retail ever since like the start of Shadowlands. We never lasted because we were still playing Classic, and we used to raid 3 times a day. Like we raided a lot. So we basically didn't have time to play retail at all until we stopped playing Classic. And that was the end of Dragonflight Season 3. So that was like a year and a half ago. That's when we started playing retail. And we already had this like competitive energy going into retail. But knowing retail, basically if you are new to the game, there is no way you can get into a competitive mythic guild. So we kind of just didn't care about raiding at the time, but we did get a lot into M+, because that was a game mode where anyone can just play. If you don't have people to play with, you can just host your own key and invite people. So that's kind of how we got into that. And we just kind of kept pushing for fun at first. And then we kept getting closer and closer to the title cutoff. And we were like, oh, can we maybe get title? And then that's when we started pushing for title. And the first time we got title was very hard because we were mostly pugging. We didn't have a pre-made to play with. And then once we got closer and closer, I think I met a couple friends to play with, and he met a couple friends to play with. We weren't always playing together because, unfortunately, sometimes a group only needed a healer or a tank. And we were like, well, if we want score, then we need to just separate because there's no way we can get in together as a group. And we just ended up separating sometimes. And eventually he found a team and I found a team, but we both ended up pushing to title for that season. So it ended up paying off. And then the season after was actually harder because Dragonflight Season 4, I don't know if you guys played, but that was basically like a repeat season where they bring back like old dungeons and stuff. So there weren't that many people playing that season. And so if you don't know how title works, it's basically the top 0.1%. And if there aren't as many players playing, then that top 0.1% is going to be a very small number. So that season, only about 600 players got title. And we ended up getting it, but it was a struggle that season. because we were really close. We were only a couple points off. And then fast forward to the War Within season 1, which was last season. Tachi was a tank main, I was a healer main, and basically he quit like the last half of last season because tanking was very difficult in the highest keys. Basically anything would just one-shot you, and then that would be the end of the key. And if you're pugging, people do not show mercy to tanks at all. Like if you die at all, their DPS is gonna be like, oh, this tank sucks, whatever. And normally it's okay. Like there aren't that many things that can kill the tank. But last season, pretty much like every other pull, every single boss, they had one-shot mechanics that would instantly kill the tank. And even if you were ready for it, sometimes you just don't have enough defensives for it. And yeah, so if you die, people would just flame you and everything, and then that's what burned Tachi out a lot. And he quit. But I somehow convinced him to come back to the game this season. And he pushed with us for a little bit. And I believe he just likes playing Vengeance Demon Hunter. That's just his main. I'll let him speak for himself with that. But he did play like throughout part of this season. And I think he's just done for now because I'll let you speak for yourself why you quit.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Okay, so it kind of stemmed from last season, right? Because Prop Paladin was the meta, and Prop Paladin is kind of like I wasn't a fan of Prop Paladin compared to Vengeance, primarily because for tanking you have to self-sustain and also do damage, right? But for Prop Paladin, that's kind of a two-step process because you have to both like attack them and also you have to wog yourself to keep yourself alive, and then you have to manage your resources because you have to choose between Wogging or Shield Righteous, right? So I didn't like the fact that you had to have it separate. Whereas if you're playing Vengeance, all you need to do is just attack. And if you're just attacking, you are healing yourself automatically. So on your mind, it's a lot easier to compartmentalize that because when you're tanking at a higher level key, there are so many things going on in your head that you don't really have the mental space to be thinking about extra stuff, and that's why certain tank specs are more popular than not, right? And Vengeance is definitely one of those ones that are way more popular due to the fact that you can think about all these other things while you're tanking, such as routing, such as what does this boss do that you can do to help the group. And also Prop Paladin has more of those tools to help, but you're also responsible for using them. So, and also I don't the change last season when they went from Dragonflight to the War Within was one of the most tank unfriendly ones. And I mean it's just generally group unfriendly where they made AoE stops not actually cancel the cooldown of casts. So like in Dragonflight before then, if you just sent like any regular stop, like let's say I don't know, like any kind of like an evoker
Knock
knockup,
up.
yeah,
Yeah,
it would
Chaos
just
Nova. Yeah.
yeah, it would just fully stop the cast and then it will go on the cooldown and then you'll have to deal with it 10 seconds later. But at the start of War Within, what happened was they just made it so that they instantly started recasting. So that became a huge problem because you had these mobs in Grim Batol that did this Shadow Flame Slash ability, very deadly for the tank. It does a huge buster and then leaves a dot on you. Very nasty. And what happens is you have to press a defensive for it, and usually you have to immunity it, like you have bubble, spell ward, or whatever, and you don't take any damage. But then what would happen is in a pug that you do not have comms with, you would have an evoker just use upheaval because it's part of their rotation, and then you have your bubble running for the immunity on the Shadow Flame Slash, and then they knock them up, and then all of a sudden your bubble runs out and you die. And once you die, the key is over. But then they do not know the intricacy of that usually because a lot of people just kind of play the keys on autopilot. So they're just going to blame the tank automatically because they're like, oh, the tank died. Must be your fault. And that really wears down on you after it happens multiple times. Right? Of course, it doesn't happen all the time. And usually, here's the thing about like M plus toxicity that people have always like talked about on social media. But a lot of people that are like actually really good at the game not like high IO necessarily, but just like actually good at the video game and can get high IO whenever they want to, they understand the struggle. They have been there, they have done that, and they understand what it is like to push. So they are usually very tolerant and like understanding for people that are learning or actually understand how mechanics work and like don't just assign fault to someone when something goes wrong. But in pugs, they usually don't really care about personal growth of a stranger. The thing that they're focused on is just the result, the end result of the key. So if you brick the key, it's your fault. And in season one War Within, you basically just got soft blacklisted because if you know this tank didn't do well, would you invite them to the next key to try again? And there was no resilient keys back then, so it was just, you know, you basically had the choice of playing with a tank that you know didn't do well, or you have to wait. And there were so many times where I would sign up to a key pugging, and people would hold their key, not invite me, and essentially just sit there for 3 hours and then just call it off and say, you know what, we've waited for 3 hours. There are no good tank candidates in queue. Let's just play on Saturday or something like that. And that really hurts. So that's why I ended up quitting. But this season, I ended up having the group that play with Katsa last season to play with, and they're a blast to play with. They're really cool guys, and yeah, we pushed pretty high. I also enjoy playing Vengeance because of all the stops you can do, and uh, it's more powerful this season because you have combinations with the Boomkin to really be able to control the mobs, and yeah, it's just really fun. But again, I think when you push up until a certain point, like when we got to 20s, 19 and 20s, is when you have to do certain routes that are very advanced. So you have to pull stuff into bosses and stuff for Arcane Mage, and that became a lot of practice. This was one thing that I was very impressed of when I played with you guys for the first time in that Motherload 10, is that um, Pa here clearly has done a lot of research. Like, there's a lot of routing stuff and like boss tech and like polling stuff that you clearly have done research at the higher level that you do that I do not see at all from other key level, other like players at the same key level. So I was really impressed of that. So that's why I was like, hey, this is like a very fun vibe.
Yeah,
And
no,
also,
that's
go
watching
ahead.
watching like Tettles and different people streaming at higher levels. It's like, oh yeah, you could do this as long as the healer knows what's going on, or you can pull in on boss 3 the what are they called? The guys that do the
Yeah, the
AoE.
War Machines.
The war machines, yeah. And it's like, and that's something that, especially at lower levels, you can, if you're carrying somebody, or you're carrying a couple people, it's like, okay, well, if we have the heal through this, it'll help us on the next part of it. I feel like ends up. I have no idea what it's like where you guys are at. There's not a lot of carrying in 19s and 20s, I imagine. But yeah.
Yeah, speaking of healing, what does Lil John think about healing so far? Because I know you have done a little bit of healing.
Well, I think it's pretty fun to heal on a disc priest. Pretty fun. That's the one that I mostly do when I heal, and it's pretty fun to do.
Are you playing Oracle or Void Weaver?
Oracle.
Okay. And what do you like about this priest so far?
Well, I like how you do damage and you heal at the same time, and I like penance.
Yeah.
And with Oracle, how you have the thing where you can just cast a lot of penance at once is real nice.
Yep. Penance is definitely one of the more fun abilities. And you get 2 of them when you play Oracle. So that is my favorite thing about Oracle as well. So what do you feel what goes on in your head when there's like an event that it does a lot of damage and you feel like you're falling behind?
Well, I like to use the ultimate penance and like the big healing that you do, like mass barrier and ultimate penance and forget what it's called, but it bumps like all your party members' health a pretty decent amount up.
Evangelism, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And do you ever feel scared when people are dying very quickly?
No, not very much.
Oh wow, that's amazing. You'll be a good healer then.
He's got a thick skin for a healer.
Yeah, that's
He's like,
good.
eventually, he's not there with Omni CD, but he'll be like, "Oh, well, you had personals up, you know."
Oh yeah, that's the mentality you need, because healers get blamed sometimes when people die and they don't pop defensives, and they try to blame the healer, but you gotta call them out. So that's good. You're already on the right track.
Healers and tanks, you got to have a thick skin. I think you had a specific question, right, Little John, for Katsa?
Oh yeah, I do. Why do you get ultimate barrier and you don't get the other one that you can pick, like that gives a shield to your party members?
Oh, luminous barrier?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see. So, luminous barrier gives them a shield. I believe no one in high keys uses it because a lot of things in high keys one shot. So, a shield is nice and it'll absorb like one part of the one shot. But if you're dealing with certain mechanics such as the paladins, so we pull 5 paladins at a time in Priory, each one of those tolls will one shot. And if you use Luminous Barrier, which is like a heal absorb or a shield, it will cover one of those one shots. But then once the shield is gone, then you're gonna die to the next one. So if you use Power Word Barrier, which is a flat 20% damage reduction, it'll give you that damage reduction for every one of those tolls, as long as the barrier is still on. And it lasts 10 seconds, so it'll cover about like 4 tolls before it runs out. So overall, the Power Word Barrier that gives a 20% DR will be more effective than one shield. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically most mechanics like just one-shot you in high keys, and you basically just take whichever one is more effective overall.
And damage reduction often ends up being the name of the game, in terms of it usually lasts longer, and it allows you to do throughput healing to cover up the damage that's coming in.
Yep, pretty much. And Pain Sup is another really good damage reduction ability, and as Oracle Priest, you get another 10% DR on it, so that's 50% damage reduction. So if you were taking 10 million damage and you put a Pain Sup on yourself, you would only take 5 million damage. That's your entire health, or that's half of your health. So taking half of your health is much easier to heal up than taking all of your health. And then, so for the Paladin build that I was talking about, we were doing a 20 Priory, and each of those tolls would do about 9.5 million raw damage. And each person only has 10 million HP. Some people have 11 million, but if you took the entirety of that toll, you would take almost all your health in just one toll. And those tolls come out every 3 to 4 seconds. So it'll go like, toll, 3, 2, 1. Toll, 3, 2, 1. It would go like that. And you would basically have 3 seconds to top the entire group before the next one goes out. But imagine if you're taking all of your HP per toll versus you're only taking half your health per toll. It would be much easier to heal up. So anything that has like a damage reduction, any ability that has damage reduction, it will automatically make healing a lot easier. And yeah, when we run Death Knights, they have AMZ, Anti-Magic Zone, which is also a 20% DR. That's a dome-looking thing. It's a purple dome. Basically the same as Power Word Barrier, but only for magical abilities. we love that ability as well as healers. So, yeah.
And mass barrier.
Oh yeah, mass barrier is a mage ability, which is it's very similar to the ability you were talking about, which is luminous barrier. That it's very similar to that ability, but a mage can take that ability without having to drop any of their DRs. So that's why mages take that ability. But for priests, if we could choose both of them, I would definitely choose both of them. But because we could only choose one or the other, then powered barrier would be the better choice in this case.
And that's also kind of how like a meta comp is formed, right?
Yeah.
Because you have like the dungeon pool, and then people do the beta testing and they see what part of the dungeon pool is very difficult. It's like, okay, this part you need a lot of these like AoE defensives to live with if we want to pull fast. Then how do you then people eventually through trial and error figure out that okay, all of this stuff we're gonna need this AoE defensive here, and then we're gonna need another one, and then we're gonna need another one, and then the mobs are gonna be dead. So then how do we do that? And then they pick the best classes out of those that does the most damage and has the most defensive capabilities. So that's how they ended up this season with Death Knight and Arcane Mage being the like meta comp, so to say, right? That doesn't mean it's the only comp, but it definitely means that that comp has significant advantages. Whereas if you like swapped out one of the DPS for a similar type DPS that does not have the same utility, let's say you swapped out the mage for a Ellie or enhanced shaman, and now you're definitely not going to have the benefits of having that
Mass barrier.
Yeah, that mass barrier, right? And
Yeah,
it's a
they
huge.
they
huge
took
difference.
away Nature's Guardian from us. I can't believe they did that.
Vigil. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
it's ancestral guidance, I think.
Ancestral
Or-
guidance. Yeah, that one. Probably not as good as the others, but it's something that would help off heal.
Yeah, that would be nice. And then another example I'll go over is when we were pulling the first pull of Cinderbrew. We did it on a 20, and we were pulling all 3 of the hired muscles. So those ones that send out the dots. And each application of the dot is about like 7 million damage to you, which is about like 70% of your HP. So basically we would go through this rotation. I would drop my powered barrier first, and then after that's done, we would do the AMZ next, and then we would do the darkness from the DH. That one's kind of random because you have like a 30% chance to completely dodge the ability or take the full damage of it. So darkness is usually really well used when it's a lot of like ticking damage, because each tick has a chance to dodge versus if you're only getting hit once, then that's it. If you get hit, then you're dead. So darkness is a really good ability to use on those hired muscles because they do a lot of ticking damage. But that's kind of the rotation we go through. And recently, we were doing it on a 19, and we were able to overlap some of our defensives. We were able to drop the dome, then we were able to drop another dome, and then we were able to drop darkness, and that was it. And the mobs would be dead. But unfortunately, when we moved up to a 20, we would use all of our defensives, and the mobs are still alive because they live 10% longer. So we have to figure out another like new rotation where, okay, maybe we have lust on the first 2 dots, so we don't have to use anything on that, and then we have to stretch it out. Maybe I can heal through another one with more CDs without using anything. So every time you go up a key level, you have to just replan out your defensives, because sometimes you start dying again when the mobs live longer. And that's where DPS also helps a lot. So as a healer, if you have really good DPS and they kill things very fast, then you have less to heal. So yeah, some of the things you will notice are if you have good DPS and they do a lot of damage, you have to heal less. And a second thing is if you have really good DPS who use their defensives, you also don't have to heal as much. So imagine if you're healing a 19 and you defensive for every single mechanic that goes out. Then effectively you're only healing like about a 12 or 13. But if they don't use any defensives, then you're healing the damage raw, and that's impossible to keep up. So basically, I think the common misconception is that if you can heal a 19 or a 20, then you're so much better than players that heal like 11s or 12s, 13s. But in reality, if you have really good DPS that use defensives really well, then you can always like heal lower. Basically, you're healing like a lower key, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's I for me, I feel like I've really seen that 15s is as high as I've attempted. And the difference between I mean, at 15, I feel like if DPS is not hitting any defensive cooldowns in Cinderbrew, for instance, it's just there's nothing I can do. You first boss, you're gonna die. If I once I'm out of my major cooldowns, if you don't start pulling out your damage reduction from your kit, well, hopefully we got a battle res for you, because I can't do a whole lot after a certain point.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious now, what are your guys' like most difficult parts of doing keys like so far? What do you think is the hardest?
Go ahead, and Eddie. I'm sure there's something that came to mind for you.
I don't know. I have a hard time interrupting at the right time. Like, I'll remember to interrupt, but then the spell will have gone off by the time that I remember to interrupt.
You're starting to get them. You're starting. I'm seeing you being the one who interrupts a lot more these days.
For me, when I'm doing this priest, I almost never use pain suppression. So that's
Yeah, those are two things that I also deal with. So, as you know, I started playing my Ret Paladin recently, and I just started pushing high keys. So yesterday I did like an 18 or whatever, and I didn't have the correct macro for focus target. So basically, if you're playing DPS and you have to focus killing one mob, but there's another mob that's casting, it's not efficient to swap over to kick that mob, then go back to your main mob. So you should set a focus macro for it. Basically, what it does is you focus that mob that you're supposed to kick, and whenever it's your turn to kick, you don't need to swap off your main mob. You just hit your focus kick macro, and it'll just automatically kick that mob. So I had trouble doing that because when I was playing Disc Priest, I didn't have to kick at all. And I just finally had to kick now. So that was one thing I was struggling with as well. But if you have a really good setup, like if you have good macros, if you have a good timer that you can see next to your nameplate of when that mob is casting, then you'll have a much easier time kicking that mob. I don't know if you have a good setup for that. I think Bigwigs has that thing next to your nameplate where you can see when the cast is going. So there will be like a 10-second timer, and you can watch that timer on that nameplate, and that'll make it so much easier. You'll just be ready to kick whenever the CD is up. Yeah, and then in terms of pain suppression, I also struggled a lot to press it. When I was first starting to play Priest, I would be like, oh, I need to save this pain sub for the next mechanic, and then I end up not using it for like half the key, and then I was like, oh, I guess I could have used it a couple times. I've had 2 charges of this since like the beginning of the key, and slowly, I think it's better to overuse it than to like not use it at all. So I was trying to train myself to use it more, and then sometimes I would use it too much, and then I would get to a point where, oh, I don't have it up anymore. And then slowly I would go back to balancing it out and thinking about, okay, maybe I don't need to use it here, but I need to use it here. And then as you do more and more keys, you'll get more experience and knowing when to use them. So that'll just come with experience. Maybe you just haven't played Disc Priest for that long, and if you play it more and more, you'll get used to it a lot more, for sure.
That also that helps a lot when you have like someone to communicate with, right? Because like if she asks me, do I need pain sub right now? I can sometimes just tell her, I don't need pain sub right now. You can send pain sub on DPS, because I'm at a position where I don't believe if I played correctly that I will die at all. So if I do die, I'm not going to say it's because you didn't pain sub me. I'm just going to say I didn't play well and I died because of that. So then I'm going to say you're free to use pain sub on the DPS. But then usually, like when you do keys enough, you kind of know exactly which pain points that you need. It's less reactionary. It's less about like, oh, I need pain sub all of a sudden. It's more, I know at this point when I pull these mobs, is when I'm going to need pain sub. And then at these points, I don't need pain sub. So when at those points, you're going to tell the healer you can use pain sub on the DPS. And then at a certain point, you don't even need to tell them anymore because you've done the key so many times. And I think that's kind of like the progression of it.
Yeah.
And also with the focus target thing, I know this might seem like a lot of work and stuff, but I think this is like the one singular thing that has like made me a better Mythic Plus player. I'm gonna pass on like the message from Shah. Like once I set it up, it is a world of difference when it comes to like um interrupting. If interrupting has been like a problem for you, so let's just take an example. I think it was just like saying things that are like very vague, but let's take a physical example. Do you guys remember the in Motherlode after the first boss, you have those mobs where you have like the one drill guy that like puts circles down, and then you have all those guys that like throw rocks at you, right? So obviously you want to kill the drill so that he stops doing the drill thing, but you also need to interrupt the guy that throws the rock at you. So then sometimes if you have to switch to the target to interrupt it, then it's really hard to target the drill back, right? But if you like right before you do the pull, so like as you guys are running up to the mobs, you're not actually doing anything, you're just running up to it. You can press your focus on the guy that casts the rock at you, and you just hit the drill. And then whenever it comes down to the time where you have to interrupt, all you have to do is press that button. You do not ever need to swap off of the drill guy. So then that makes it a lot easier as well. You don't have to like think to like click and have that like precision aiming on like moving your mouse over to it. All you have to do is press the kick button. So
And
I think that is like the singular thing that helped the most.
I need to get that set up for all of us. It's one of those things where since I'm usually healing, and as a resto shaman, all of your DPS is in acid rain anyways, basically, and keeping up flame shock. I've been lazy and just use plater and mouse over interrupts, and I'm usually ending up kicking something that somebody else isn't able to at a certain point. But as I DPS more, I need to, and just in general, we do gotta get that set up so that we don't have to leave our focus target or leave our primary damage target to interrupt. But yeah, and they've been getting into macros mostly for emotes. But yeah, yeah.
That is a
That's where it
very
starts.
fair use of macros.
But yeah, I think the one we use is like it sets your focus target as that, and then it puts a mark on it with like the macro. You can select whichever mark. So like when you press your focus target, it would put like, let's say circle for me, and we'll put circle on it. And then if someone else presses that same macro on that target, it would not overlap it. So
Oh, we
basically
actually
like
swapped to a weak aura for that. So you only need to have a focus macro, and then the weak aura will automatically mark the mob to whatever marker you set it to. So I can send you guys that weak aura if you want it. But that makes it so much easier because each person will mark a focus, and then the weak aura will just mark that target as whatever marker you set it to. So that'll make it a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah, please send that out. So getting out of the details for a second, and the question might take us back into the details. I had a question for all of you, kids included, and my question is this: for if Blizzard came to you and said, "We've got all the content done. We know we're running PTR, but we're done balancing, and we need one thing to work on for the next 4 weeks for this next season, and we'll implement whatever you tell us." What would be the thing that you would ask Blizzard to do?
Let the kids go first.
I would ask them to get rid of gearing. There's no more gearing at all.
really, do you find
See-
gearing annoying?
I really hate gearing. Like, so first you have to level up your character, and I don't particularly like doing that. And then you also have to gear it. I just wish that leveling it, once you had leveled it, you had also geared it, and it was just all part of the same process. Like, once it's up to level, then you have also geared it all the way.
I think the leveling part definitely makes sense because a lot of people just buy boosts to like uh not deal. I guess they buy boosts for gear as well. But the thing is, for a lot of people, the gearing process is the motivation that they like play the game for. Because there are so many people that we know that if there were no gearing in the game, they would not play the game. They would get bored very, very quickly. They would just play the content, do it like for like a week, and then be like, oh, you know what, I've done all I can, and that's done.
Well, I would
So
say that's more of like a classic player mentality. I think most people that play retail don't like gearing. So it kind of just depends.
maybe
I
they could
gotta,
expedite the process, but not
I gotta,
necessarily like completely kill it.
I gotta say, I'm a little demotivated to push any keys right now with the looking at the item level of gear that's going to be out in 4 weeks.
Yep.
uh, so I get it. I definitely get it. I'll since this is kind of tied into it, I'll give my answer for it. It would be that crests are transferable, uh, which is basically accomplishing a little bit of the same thing. Once you've outgrown the use of a crest on one tune, on your main tune, if you could transfer the crest to your alts, I think that would go a long way
Yeah, that
to
would be really
clearing that
good.
pain point. Yeah, for because alts are fun to learn, but a pain to gear.
Yep. And to add to that, I was keeping up 10 ults this season, and all of them, I got them all to like 665 or higher item level. And then the turbo boost came out, and that was when I stopped. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna grind out another 1,000 crests on each character. It took me a whole week to grind out my main plus like one other alt. And after that, it was like, I'm just giving up on these alts, I guess. Like there's only 2 months left of the season. Like there's no point. So turbo boost, that really, I agree on the crest part. Like I have 1,000 crests on my main that I could just transfer to my alts. Like if that was a thing, at least if they don't make it like that at the start of season, they should change it. Like they should add that in like towards the end of season when nobody cares anymore.
Absolutely. I agree. Little John, what would you ask Blizzard to do if they do one thing for you before the next season?
To make Brewmaster very good.
Oh, they've already done that.
Yeah, if you're playing the PTR right now, Brewmaster is very good right now.
It's going to be very good.
But you gotta cross your fingers because they could nerf it before the season starts.
Oh yeah, it would be like the Blood DK problem where they like look super good on PTR and then on live it's just not as good.
Yeah,
They have to stay good.
we'll see. We'll see how it works out.
Why do you want Brewmaster to be good?
Because I like Brewmaster.
Oh wow.
And
So you've played it already.
I've done a little bit at I think the beginning, like in the middle of the season.
What do you like about it?
I just like it. There's nothing like that I like just about it. I just like it.
Do you like tanking?
I like doing all the things. DPSing, I don't like as much as the two other ones, but I like healing, tanking, and DPSing.
Oh wow. Okay, so you like tanking and healing more than DPSing?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Maybe
He's going to be a fantastic multi-classer in about 3 years. Yeah.
yeah, that'll I
It might
believe
be
it.
way sooner than that.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe rank 1 level type multi-classer in 3 years.
He seems very dedicated, and that's what you need to push keys because it's a long grind. So you gotta stay dedicated for the entire season sometimes, and that's really hard to do for a lot of people. I have some friends who push keys. They push kind of high early season, and then they burn out in like the next 2 weeks. So pushing for the entire season, as long as you enjoy the game and you genuinely like doing all the grinding and everything, you'll get pretty far.
That's the most important part because if you burn out, then you're not gonna endure the push. So, and also, I don't want to sound like I'm tooting your guys' horn, but when I play with you guys, uh, Lil Jon and Nettie are genuinely better than like most of the pugs that I play with in like a +10, a +12 level. It's actually kind of impressive that I saw the growth because like I think when I first saw the YouTube videos, there was a lot of learning involved and stuff, and then when it came down to like actually doing the key later, there was so much visible improvement that I was like genuinely impressed. So I think there's so much potential that and it's not just like applied to like playing like WoW, but just like the learning of it is kind of like a good skill to have because it's like a problem solving capability, right? So I was genuinely very impressed with the kids.
Oh yeah, he's not just saying that because even like outside of this podcast, he was telling me that after he played with you guys. So yeah, he
They
genuinely
make me
thinks so.
proud. They make me proud. I don't know if you guys were around at the time, but there was a moment we we did the subathon a couple weeks back, and I have to go raid, and they start pugging like 11s,
Oh wow.
and I was like, oh man, this is one of those moments that makes me proud. I wish I could just sit back and watch. They wouldn't have done it probably if I hadn't been raiding, but it was really cool to see. I don't think they timed the key, but they got to the end. They stuck it out, and it's really cool to watch them progress. I mean, especially going back to season 1 videos of watching the progress that they've made is just crazy.
Yeah. And then don't want to deviate too much from the question because we still haven't answered it. I'll let
Right.
Tachi answer first. What's one thing you want to change?
I don't know. I mean, I personally, I don't think it's like a one problem, like because I personally just have like a huge issue with like the Mythic Plus system in itself. I think I'm not really sure how to fix this, so I'm not really sure how to like get Blizzard to change this. But I think like there is like a fundamental issue with like how Mythic Plus is, and that like makes it so that there is a lot of like um unkind interactions that could like happen. But I don't know if that's like on Blizzard's end or like the community's end. So I don't know. I don't think I have like a good solution for them right now. But I mean, okay, let's just go with an easy one, like the crest thing. I think they either like first of all, Valor Stones, completely get rid of them. There's no point of that at all. And then the crest thing, like we have so many uh of the big crests, right? Because we do like push keys and then you get them at the end and then we do the keys and we don't even remember them. And then we would check and I'm like, oh, I have like 1,300 gilded crests and I can't do anything about it. But whereas like if I wanted to play on my shaman, I could just transfer. If I could just transfer like all of those 1,300 gilded crests over, I can be instantly 683, and that would be so nice. Because when you're playing the key and you don't have like capped gear, you always feel kind of bad because you're like, oh, I could be stronger, but then you have to go farm it, and that's annoying. So I think that's something they could change. So yeah, make the big crest transferable.
Yep.
And it's in a system that if you're pushing anyways, you're farming anyways, right? It's
Right.
like, well, you got to go farm so you can keep farming, right? And it's like,
Right.
give me a chance to just if I understand the class, I can gear quick and get into it and get to the fun part, right?
Yeah, and then to add to that, I think if you have your main fully upgraded, you should be able to upgrade your ult without or like the discount is definitely not enough because even with the discount, I had to farm like 800 crests on my ult. So even the discount, like just make it free because you already grinded it out on your main, so may as well. And if they want to encourage more like alt gameplay, that's like one of the biggest things that stops people from playing alts. So if they change that, that would be great.
Yeah. A lot of this right now is like they feel like they're trying to artificially stretch out the amount of time that you have to play the game. But what ends up happening right now is people just don't play the game because it's so tedious. So they need to find that sweet spot where it's like people want to play more for the sake of playing, for like their own enjoyment and not because they have to.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the why do we have a tank and a healer shortage? And I think that there's the role being inherently more responsibility, more likely to get called out, like you were talking about. But also, I think that it's just so difficult. So if I have my friends, right? You have your push group, you have your people that you're normally running with, and you want to switch roles. Well, I don't want to have them just carry my rat till it's geared,
Oh,
right? Nobody's enjoying that process. And I mean, you can. There's ways you can make it fun. We've had fun in different moments doing different things, but that being the focal point of it, I think is a big contributor to. Well, DPS is easier. in one sense. I actually think DPS is harder as a healer and tank primary person. It's a different set of skills, but there is more responsibility, and when things go wrong, you're going to get blamed. So, and it may have been your fault. Anyway, I think that if they would let people put more time into experimenting with the different roles at a higher level, I think that it would go a long ways towards broadening the pool of people that are willing to swap between roles.
Yep, we had to carry one of our teammates one time because at the start of the season he was playing his shaman, and mage was the meta. So we basically had to carry his mage from level 70. He bought a character boost and it was level 70. We boosted it all the way to level 80, and then we had to help him gear it up through doing a bunch of keys, and that was not fun.
The way that you can make it a little bit fun is if you all go DPS or something. Like if you're, depending on how it is, have a really strong healer and invite tanks that maybe are a little under geared, don't really necessarily know, to where you can heal them through. I mean, it's a little more inefficient, but it could be fun to kind of coach. We this is something that we've done a few times.
Oh,
I don't know if I've done it on stream, but off stream with some people that we have fun sometimes doing something like that, trying to, no, you can pull bigger than this. And then they pull like at the beginning of Priory really cautious. And then we had one where they get to Brawn Pike and they try to pull the whole room. We've just been giving them this sense of confidence, and I'm like, oh, that one is not going to work that way.
oh yeah.
But the kids have to go and help get ready for dinner. So kids, is there anything else that you would like to say? Any questions you have before you guys got to go? Little John? All right. Well, why don't you guys thank Katsa and Tachi for having you on and sharing some of their wisdom with you. You can unmute to do it.
Thanks. This was pretty fun.
It was.
No, thank you guys for coming, and we just yapped all the way. Didn't even let you guys talk much. Got to feel bad about that, but we're gonna have a little bit more words with Pa. Hope you guys have a good dinner.
Yeah, it was really fun and really nice talking to you guys. And I'm sure we'll get to talk more in the future, and maybe we'll get to play together. We'll see. Thanks for coming.
Would that be fun, guys? To get to the point where you're doing some 19s and 20s with them?
That would be kind of fun, and I feel like really hard to do.
We take it one step at a time. We'll do like some
Yep.
13s, some 14s. We'll go from there.
Just progressive overload.
That's
Yeah.
how you learn fast. All right. I have a question for you about the kids. So, how do you like balance out their playtime versus like having to do other things? Do you have to like set a strict limit, or are they usually pretty good on that?
I don't have to worry about it at all with Annette. She wants to go read. She wants to go, and she's always got a book she's got to read. You know, she's really diligent with her schoolwork. She loves baking and helping in the kitchen. Sometimes we have to pull her in here to get her to play with us. She is not a gamer the way that Little John is. Little John is definitely, it's like, okay, you have to have these things done before you get to play. And so it's you want to play, he comes and asks, do you want to play? And it's like, well, how's your list, you know, is everything done? And then if everything's done, if all the responsibilities are taken care of, then okay, yeah, you can play until we're going to go for a family walk this evening or something, that depending on what the time of day is and what the day looks like. But yeah, so very situational per kid. I've got our 7-year-old Ollie, who sometimes a little bit gets to play with us. He definitely, I guess my boys have been a little bit more obsessive, and I think it's probably not uncommon for that to be the case. And so, I mean, with Little John, there was a point where he had to take a 6-month break.
Oh wow.
Just saying, okay, you know, you have an unhealthy relationship with this. You know, it's affecting your emotions if you don't get what you want when you want it. And so we're gonna take a long break, and it's gonna be okay. And after that, he hasn't had any any tilt associated with it. So so I think it's very, very individual to the child, from what I can tell.
Well, that's good. It seems like you have a lot of experience with this.
We've got a lot of kids, and we definitely we're learning still, and we hope and pray that we're making the right decisions. But it's one of those things where we enjoy playing together. It's great family time, and then we give them some freedom to try to practice responsibility in terms of how they do things otherwise. And I think that's the tightrope that you walk as a parent, is saying, okay, when we want you to be responsible, to learn responsibility, to where you can manage yourself and set good boundaries and healthy boundaries for yourself. But as your parent, it's our job to try to make sure that we're watching out and paying attention so that we can help you to where you'll be able to do that in the future. So yeah.
Of course. So how much do they play every week so far?
My guess is a Nettie, so she'll play with us on stream. And then she might play 3 or 4 hours off stream. And then Little John, he probably gets an extra hour and a half or so off stream. And so they don't usually start the stream with me. They're usually on for maybe 12 hours to start out with just our streaming time. And they don't, sometimes Annette, like I said, Annette loves to bake. She'll like, no, I just want to read a book today. That's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you have to play a computer game, right? That would be ridiculous. But so Little John probably ends up being close to 20 hours a week is my guess about
Oh,
where
wow.
it is. I could pull up the stats, but that tends to be, I look at their screen report time every week. And so, yeah. So
That's a
is that
decent
too
amount.
much? Some people might say yes. Most WoW players would say you haven't even started playing the game yet, right?
Yeah.
That's arbitrary, right? You don't have to play a lot necessarily to get to like a point where you're decent. I think
No.
like a lot of people can pick up very quickly. And also like the method of like doing it with like proper teaching and stuff, I think at a lower level matters way more than just putting in the time. I think only at
Right.
like the much higher level then you need to kind of work out specific things.
Yep, proper practice, and the thing is, his 20 hours are very shotgun. It's not always 20 hours. There are weeks where it's just we stream about 12 hours a week that they get to participate in. So, but he I think he's probably got 6 or 7 characters that are approaching 660 eye level. So, and I know that's not like keeping 10 alts up, but I'm like, if you focused into one, it would be a lot cheaper and take less time to upgrade your others, and you'd see more progress. But he's kind of taking the tour and seeing what all he wants to play, and we'll see. Maybe he'll find a main this coming season. We'll find out.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't found a main yet, and I'm like a year and a half in. So
For sure.
yeah, I mean, I could just main whatever is meta.
Well, but you're maining for like several months at a time, at least, right?
Right, of course.
You have a main for the season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a question that I'm interested to hear. As far as flavor of the month, how long do you maintain gearing all your healers until you say, okay, this is the meta, and I'm good to focus just in on my discipline priest this season?
That's a good question. And it was different before. So I started in Dragonflight Season 3, and that was already the second half of it, and the meta was already set pretty much. I started as a Disc Priest actually because I thought that was the meta at the time. It was like in a transitional phase, and then I swapped to Mistweaver, and then that was it for that season. And then Season 4, it was a repeat of the previous dungeons of the whole season, and I think all the classes didn't get changed. Like none of them were different, so the meta was like for sure going to be Resto Druid. So I played my Resto Druid for that season. And then I didn't start gearing like multiple alts until last season, the War Within season 1. So to start, I think I was maining my Resto Shaman. And I kept up every single healer spec for the entire season, or I believe the entire season, until like the very last month, I believe. That was just a choice. I didn't have to do that. But midway through, so about the 0.5 patch, is when I swapped to my Disc Priest. That was when it became meta. And that season, that was my first time like actually gearing multiple alts. So I was more motivated to do that, and there wasn't really a turbo boost. But this season is actually when I started to methodically gear up different alts depending on like the meta and stuff. And I would say after this season, I would recommend at least keeping up. Well, if you're going this route, obviously, if you're trying to play meta, keeping it up until at least like the 0.5 patch, because 0.5 there's a huge like balancing patch, and usually after that is like going to stay the same. But this season was uniquely different because ever since Oracle Disc Priest became meta, it never fell off. I kept up a second priest actually, just in case, because I wanted to see which priest got a better vault. And I didn't actually end up swapping, but I did get better vaults at the start of the season. The only difference is that I raided on my main priest, and there's a lot of raid gear this season that you need on priests, or most classes actually. But yeah, outside of that, 0.5 patch is where I would say to keep up all your alts if you are trying to play and swap to meta immediately. But it doesn't have to be like full vaults. Like for some of them, I think I only did like one key. And then for my favorite ones, I picked like my top 3 that I filled out like all the vaults for. I think at some point I did like about 5 characters. I filled out like all the vaults, but it was not every week, and it just kind of depends on when I wanted to play.
Also depends on like if you have people.
Right.
Sorry if I interrupt. Like, because if you have like a group of people that are also at the same time trying to do the same thing, it makes it so much easier than if you're, let's say, you by yourself, or like have only one more person, and then you're trying to pug 3 every single time to try to make it happen. That's a lot worse.
Oh yeah, like a key could take like 40 minutes, or it could take 20 minutes. So
Right.
if you
Right. Yeah.
yeah, whenever I have like some friends that are happen to be doing vault keys, like last night for example, I had some friends that were just spamming vault keys, and I was like, I'm gonna get in on that. I'm gonna get as many vaults I can done right now, because I know that if they're gone, then I would have to spend another 20 minutes per key, and that's just too much if you're talking in the grand scheme of things.
Oh, 100%. Tachi, I had a question for you. And actually this both of you can answer this. Do you have a mythic guild that you raid with? Your 8/8 mythic, is that true?
Tachi doesn't. But
I don't know.
yeah. He did like join our friends guild for a bit, and they got CE, but that was only to fill for like the last 2 weeks.
So what happened with them was they had like a fallout during Mugsy because it was very hard, and then their GM, which was like not GM, like the raid leader type person, quit, and he was the off tank. And then we already knew the other tank because like he was the person that like played with Katsa for season 3 Dragonfly, and then he already knew me as well, right? So we were just like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna get in here. Let's try to get this done. And like they originally had a blood DK, which wasn't like fitting, and then they're like, oh, we need a prop paladin specifically. Where are we going to find a geared prop paladin? And then I'm like, oh, I have a geared prop paladin, because that was the one tank that I was like maintaining as the potential if VDH were to fall off, I was going to go to prop paladin. I didn't want to keep up all the other stuff, because last season actually the funny thing was I started the season as Guardian, because Guardian was the one that looked good after Bloody K got nerfed, and then I swapped to Prot Warrior when Prot Warrior looked good. And then I swapped to Prot Paladin when Prot Paladin got buffed. So it was like a lot of swapping. I was like, I do not want to deal with any of that. I'm just going to, play whatever I have to.
Oh, he didn't really have a plan. He's like, well, if BDH is Done.
Yeah,
I'm
so yeah,
quitting.
VDH is bad. Yeah, VDH is bad, and Prop Paladin is bad. I'm not playing anymore. That's like my, or like at least I'm not pushing anymore. That was like my kind of path there. So yeah, so I just played, but I think the question that you are asking is more like pertaining to like the gearing portion, maybe, as to
Well,
like the Mythic
I
rating.
I guess gearing portion. I actually I'm interested in solving that question. That of course we can do that in another 15 to 30 minutes on a podcast, of how do you take the community that can be so toxic and what is the solution to making it less toxic. And I think that one of the answers is you play with people that you vet and and you develop a relationship with over time, to where there's some level of trust that we are in this to learn and progressively get good together. um, and I wonder, is there more of an opportunity to do that in raiding? I know it can be cutthroat regardless of where you're at, but is there the potential to do that in raiding in a way that there isn't an M plus, and maybe a way that that could turn into M plus groups, like where you have flexibility for pugging out of a good set of people? I don't know. Does that make, I don't know what question I'm asking, but I guess it would be, do you think there's more of a chance to enjoy WoW uh, in the mythic rating setting than there is the toxicity that can come once you start pugging M plus? Or do you just not like the raid format in a way that M plus you do enjoy that, and pugging just happens to be how you end up doing it?
That's a good question. I would say that toxicity for both, it comes from different places. So, in M plus, you're more likely to pug because there's more opportunities to pug. And that's where it gets toxic. Like, pugs don't know you, and they're less likely to give you a chance if they don't know who you are. And then they can be toxic in the key. But I've been raiding for 2 seasons now. Last season was my first CE, and then this season I was actually in a Hall of Fame guild. And I think the hard part or the toxic part about raiding is having to have like way overqualified logs to even get into a guild, if you're talking about mythic raiding. And that's the toxic part. Like, people are just very exclusive. They like to gatekeep. And the only reason I got in last season was because I knew it was our friends guild. Like, I knew the tank, I knew the officers, and we were pushing keys together. And they knew that I was qualified to mythic raid because I was able to push high keys to title with them. But if I didn't have that, then I would have to apply to multiple guilds, and probably not even get in, because my previous experience, I actually am like making a video on this too, but I was talking about how I had to pug mythic bosses. Like, I would literally go into an LFG channel where people had people calling out a raid, and it was like last minute, and that was the only time I could get into a mythic raid, when they were desperate for a healer, and I was playing healer at the time, and I play healer in raid, so that was the only time I would get into a raid without having like any prior experience. But outside of that, like, people will just take you in. I guess if they like you, you can stay, but the getting in part is like what is the most toxic. Obviously getting into keys is toxic as well, but at least you can just like make your own key and start your own group. Whereas in raid, it's way harder to just start your own guild, especially if you're trying to do mythic raiding. So
Yeah, so it sounds like on both sides, with pugging, people are upset because they feel like their time has been wasted,
right.
right? People get toxic because, and then in the mythic raiding scene, people are trying to protect their time so that they don't end up feeling like it's been
Yeah.
wasted from somebody who's going to end up wasting the time. Okay.
Well, the thing
Uh,
is, like, in a long term, sorry, like, I'm just gonna add
no,
on
no,
to it.
I was going to say, Tachi, what are you thinking about?
In
Yeah.
like the raid environment, I think the thing that, because like when we ran the guild in TBC and like early Wrath, the thing that burned people out the most, and also the thing that you had to dealt with the most as like leadership, was the skill mismatch within the guild, right? So like obviously you're gonna have people that are good, and you're gonna have people that are not as good. But the thing is, how do you manage like people that to have like at least like realistic expectations of like how you perform as a team, as a unit, right? In order to like achieve the goals that you wanted to. Because when you have a relatively small skill mismatch, and like that means like your weakest link versus your like best players don't have that big of a difference, then it's like a lot easier to manage, because then everyone is kind of on the same page doing the same thing and like can help each other. But the thing is, like, a lot of people usually gets burned out more whenever they see that well, you like this so and so player is not putting in the effort to like learn, or I guess in the sense of like early mythic raiding, there are people that only want to raid. They don't want to, on week 1 or week 2 bang out 10 hours of keys just to get their characters in tip top shape for mythic progression, even though that is what is required, right? So then if you have guilds that don't have these strict requirements on like you have to do these keys and make sure your character is this item level before we step into mythic raid this week, then you're going to have people that are not that. And then you're going to have the people that did that be like, well, I did all of this, why aren't they doing this? And then you have like all of that kind of like feed into like the loot problem as well, where it's like I put in this much effort, so I should deserve the loot more than that person that didn't do it. But then the person that didn't do that might have like some kind of IRL issue, right? So it becomes a kind of a complicated situation. So then I think the best like solution to this is to kind of surround yourself with like-minded like individuals. That doesn't necessarily mean like you got to find the best players possible for you to play with, but just like find people that you enjoy playing. Like, again, I think some of our friends also was like, vibes is the most important thing. Like, you just you know that you jive with this person. That's what matters the most. And then afterwards we talk about like how we like function together and like work to improve and stuff like that. But if people don't really work together, then from the get-go, then you probably shouldn't even like play with them, right? The world, there's a lot of people to play with. So, and then in terms of keys, I think um I don't know. Like, I don't really have a good solution for this, because I think unfortunately a lot of people just don't really want to like waste their time, and IO is kind of like seen as this like golden rule of like um you know I think the problem is like IO doesn't even necessarily mean you're good. Like, someone that
Yeah.
has very high IO doesn't even necessarily mean they're going to perform very well. But the thing is, if you do not have a high IO, then the odds of you not being able to perform the task necessary is way, way higher than someone that at
Higher.
least has it. So from a person that's just inviting someone off of a list. And then like a lot of people complain about this, right? A lot of people are like, well, I am qualified to do this key. How come I don't get invited? Well, it's because in this plus 10, you are, let's say, 2800 and you're 660 eye level. And then there's like someone that's like 3400 that's like 680 eye level signing up for their weekly. Who do you think I'm going to invite, right? Obviously, I'm going to invite the person that's just going to
The one who
blast the
makes my
key.
life easy. Yeah.
Right. So then, but then like the problem is like these people are technically qualified, um, but not invited regardless. So then my suggestion is, this is kind of like, I don't really know what solution you can do from Blizzard's end, but really like it's kind of like a personal thing. Like everyone at some point that has gotten to a point where they're like high IO has had to crawl out of that hole. And like maybe you have very few people that kind of just had their friends help them the entire way, but I would say like a vast majority of the people had to crawl out of that themselves and like do the due diligence of pugging and then eventually building their like baseline up, right? Because it does end up becoming a skill thing. It's not like every season once you reset you don't have this like retained score. So like how do you get back to that score again very quickly really comes down to, well, how much of that like skill have you retained, right? So it ends up, it is still a skill thing. It's just how do you develop it.
There's
But at that
also
initial
different, like every season you have to relearn everything, like the dungeons, or if you reroll a new
Tech
class.
changes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
reworks. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
dungeons change, but the methodology of learning does not change. So like
Yeah.
how do you like how do you learn to like learn is like the key, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, and that's one of the things that so I tend to be an all or nothing kind of person when it comes to hobbies or games. And so I took season 4 off of WoW, and we played TFT, and I didn't get Masters. I think I got to Emerald. I because I wasn't interested in rehashing Dragonflight that season. And then like right now, it's one of those things where for me, I'm like, yeah, I could push, right? I think I have the raw capability and enough to where I could probably, maybe not title, but towards title range keys. But I want to play with my kids, so I'm gonna play, between probably about 4 or 5 keys down from where I could be right now. And a part of it is I know that, well, if we do this for a few seasons, they're gonna get to the point where they're carrying me. um,
True.
and so I feel like that's where for so much of the toxicity in WoW, I feel like it's about finding the people that you can run with, who have at least they're not hopefully bringing drama into the keys. And if they are, you're able to say, "Hey, what's going on? Is everything okay?" you
Yeah.
know, uh, like developing real relationships. I feel like is so huge for whatever you're trying to do. And starting a Mythic Plus push group, or starting even a guild that you're trying to do some kind of progression. It's no different than starting a small business, or running a family, and saying, how do we all work together to get where we're trying to go, and hopefully we're demonstrating love and compassion to each other. And if there's a skill disparity, hopefully we can both come to the recognition of that, and still somehow find a way to have fun, even if it's not towards the progression goals that we have.
Right. Just curious, how much do you play by yourself right now? Like, how much do you push?
I have definitely not. So the Mount event came out. By the way, have you guys done anything with that?
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
farmed
she has.
TK 14 times. I spent 3 of my character boosts. I still haven't gotten ashes. That's the only mount I want.
It's a
She
great
really
mount.
wants.
Yeah, that's the only one that to me, well, the ones from Firelands are nice too, but uh yeah, so it feels like everybody on my friends list is basically either doing that right now, or just vault keys at this point. So there's
Right.
maybe a couple, but and then like I said, I'm looking at the season. So I'm like 3108, I think. I've got half 14s, somehow still a 12 priory, and then 13s. And so yeah, I'm not. I think I've done pushing. I might be open to it. I wouldn't mind getting to maybe 16s or so, but my experience stepping into 15s has been very and maybe it's just the time I'm queuing. I don't know. Maybe it's because I need to get everything to 14s before I can attract the kind of people that I want to play with in a pug situation. But it's definitely I feel like there is a hard step up there. And unless I'm willing to pug through that, or find somebody to carry me, I feel like from 14s to 15s is a pretty huge step up. And I don't know if that's true for most people's experience, but it definitely feels like there's a wall there where I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I think
makes
what
sense.
you're describing is like when people are finally starting to get serious about pushing. Because a lot of people are like doing 12s or still kind of like farming crests and stuff, because that's the maximum of
Yeah.
crests that you can get. But once you get past like 14s, it's mostly people like trying to push seriously. And from my experience, most people who sign up to keys or host keys and stuff, they have a full row of the same level done before they even try the level above. So you have a couple 14s, but you also have like some 13s and a 12 left. So that could be the reason why you're not successful queuing. Because like from my experience at least, people always look for people that are okay. You need like a full row done, unless you're an alt, obviously. But
Sure.
yeah, that's what I feel like people are looking for. At least when you're
That's
applying
the
to he's.
thing about last season. It was so brutal for tanks that they didn't even want to take you unless if you had a whole row above the level that you needed. Like it's like you want to sign up to this Grim Battle 15, you better have all 16s done. And it's like, why? Well, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, but unless if we have someone like that to carry us, we're not playing this key.
They want someone who's like re-rolling their key pretty much.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Right.
people just didn't want to like even attempt it at all, and that was so brutal. And like, and the thing is, it got so bad to the point where like tanks already didn't want to play the game because it was the most brutal tank season ever. And then on top of that, you had the community side on the other end, pretty much completely shunning all of the tanks that were just trying to learn. And like, yeah, it sucks, but the only way some tanks learn, actually just about any tank learn, is by dying sometimes. But people
Right.
are not going to be patient to that. They're going to be like, well, we're just going to wait for someone to come carry us. And then that's why, like last season, despite being a season 1 of an expansion, was one of the most dead seasons.
So
Right.
I think one interesting thing about that is I believe the most toxic players always play at the start of season and they always burn out because after Tachi quit, basically like a large portion of the community also quit around the same time. And that we were left with like pretty much no one. I was still trying to push, but I was playing a healer. And basically, whenever my tank logged off, we would just not be able to play at all. And that got me to start my own prop paladin. And I actually pushed a title on my prop paladin last season. And from my experience, people were not nearly as toxic as they were at the start of season because either all the toxic people already quit, they burned out or some reason, or maybe people just gradually started getting more and more understanding because that was the first season where tanking was that brutal. And maybe it got to that point in the season where people were finally starting to understand, like, okay, all the tanks are quitting. Every tank that we invite is dying. Like it's not just the tanks are bad. Like multiple tanks we play with are dying, and I think that is when people finally started to realize, okay, maybe it's not the player's issue. Maybe this season is just brutal. And I actually enjoyed pushing at the end of season, even though Prop Paladin was really hard. It was very hard for me to learn. It really helps that I was healing already, though, and I already knew the dungeons, and I already knew where my tank was dying, so it helped me learn. But I think that tanking experience was actually like really good for in my opinion. And I think if Tachi kept playing towards the end of season, obviously I wouldn't expect him to because people were still toxic for like the next month, even after he quit. But like towards the end of season is when people start like chilling, or maybe it's only the people that are very serious about keys left that are still pushing. But those people are genuinely like more understanding, and they understand if like things don't go right. Like right now, there's only 3 weeks left of season, and I've been trying to pug a couple keys. I've been trying to play my Ret and my Resto Shaman, and I haven't really encountered that many toxic people in pugs. So I would say it's because like towards end of season, it's only the serious key pushers that they understand what you need to go through that makes them less toxic. That's one thing I noticed.
There's probably also a valley of where the people who are still pushing that are solid players and have that, general enough dungeon understanding and overall class understanding are probably hitting the 17s, 18s, 19s at this point. It's probably, from what I can tell, when I go to list a low key on alts or with my kids, it's pretty dry out there for people looking to pug fairly low keys, unless it's a vault or a crest run for an alt. Yeah. So I play about an hour to an hour and a half a day without my kids. And well, sometimes it depends, streaming introduces a whole nother dynamic into things. I think I would like to push maybe next season. They want me to play Mistweaver in raid, and so I've been kind of learning that, and that's been taking some time.
That's what I played.
Yeah, Yeah. No, I like Mistweaver. It's fun to learn. It definitely feels the cooldowns don't feel as impactful as Resto Shaman to me so far. But there's also cooldowns you get that Resto Shaman doesn't have. So just learning that, trying to get the muscle memory on where the different things are, and then I'm thinking that next season I'll try to maybe I don't know about title. It depends on how it goes, but at least make 2 to 3 key levels higher comparatively than I did this season. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good goal to set for yourself. It's always nice to like have realistic goals that you can reach. That's one of the things that we struggle with because we always try to aim higher, especially Tachi. We always try to like set unrealistic goals and then get upset when we don't reach them. So it's good to understand your capabilities, the limited amount of time you have, and yeah, whatever you can achieve.
Yeah. So Tachi, what is your you guys both have this competitive drive. Uh how are you burnt out on WoW in general right now, or are you burnt out on the season?
I think I'm burnt out. The thing is, I think I'm burnt out on WoW in general because I think I had to assess it from like a personal standpoint, whereas like I think WoW was taking like too much of a toll on me, like in my IRL, and I think it just became too unhealthy because when I was playing doing keys, it wasn't just playing, right? Like let's say we played um for like 4 to 6 hours on weekdays and then like 9 hours on weekend. That's already a lot. But the thing is, that job is not done for me there. I have to then spend like another on top of that every week, like probably like 5, 6 hours watching VODs,
Yeah.
seeing what other tanks do, and like mimicking their thing exactly, right? Because it's like they're a lot of tanks, they don't really like the highest end tanks, they just put like a VOD up. They don't, and they just like this is like we just did this key, but they don't like tell you how they did it. They don't have like this specific thing. You have to specifically figure out how they did it and like
Right.
why this works the way they do. And then on top of that, I had to do all of that. And then there's a lot of times where we have to do homework keys and push up stuff, and then it just became like a huge time commitment to the point where like when I stopped playing season 1, I realized I had so much more time to go do so many of these other things that I wanted to do, and then I did that. And then when I went back to not doing it, I oh sorry, when I went back to like playing again this season, I realized I just gave up all of that again because I was doing all of this like key stuff again. So I think for me, there's a lot of like IRL stuff that I want to do still, that I eventually want to transition to, that I don't really want to like put this much effort, this much like mental space into doing keys per se.
You
So I think
realize
that's
you
where
have
I am
so
at.
much more. You have so much time if you don't do keys. You realize how much time you spend doing it.
Also, it's not really efficient, right? You're spending this much time and you're not even like spending it efficiently. Sometimes you're just kind of sitting there waiting. And then like there's also times with like group communication is not good, right? Because let's say like, oh, we all agreed to play today, but we didn't really say when.
Uh,
So we might play today, and then like the two of us are like sitting here for like 2 hours, and then like the other two comes in and then comes out, and the one person is like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't like actually manage to
Or
be able to
even
play
if you
today.
agreed on a time, sometimes people are like, "Oh, sorry, I'm late today," or like,
Yeah, or like
yeah,
overslept, didn't know whatever, had like ran traffic from work or whatever, and like all sorts of things can happen. So then you just like have to make do with your time, right?
yeah,
So
it's
I think,
it's a full-time job that you're not getting paid for,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
right?
Unless you're
uh,
streaming.
Yeah, unless you're streaming.
well, and if you are, you're not getting paid enough for a full-time job to
Exactly.
make it your gig, right? Um,
Right.
I guess I had one more question for you guys, and it
Mhm.
kind of I think when you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think when you guys came in the first time, you said that one day you'd like to do this with your kids, if I
But
recall
yeah,
correctly.
I
Yeah,
thought that was cool.
yeah, no.
Might not
So
necessarily
so
be WoW, but yeah.
Yeah, something like
right, right, yeah, something. There's much less time demanding games that you can get have fun with. Uh, Out of curiosity, you guys are, I'm guessing, somewhere between 8 to 15 years younger than me. I'm almost 40 now.
I'm turning 26 in 2 days. My birthday's in 2 days.
A happy birthday.
Thanks.
Happy birthday. How do you guys feel, and this is not WoW related at all, but I think it's important that I don't know, to communicate between generations a little bit. How does it feel, the prospect of making a family right now for you guys?
So your question is like, how do we feel about starting a family like right now?
Yeah, just in the general prospect of starting a family. I like, so for instance, my wife and I had kids. I had been more career focused up until that point, and I probably didn't play video games for 7 or 8 years as we said. I at some point when we had our third, and she is 9 now. Yeah, I got a PlayStation 4 and played Destiny.
Oh.
But before that, I had not been. I had not really played games at all for a long period of time. So I know there's like sacrifices in some senses that you're gonna have to make, right? If you're gonna have kids. And so I'm just, yeah, and then I know that the world looks a lot different than it did 12 years ago when we started having kids, and
Yeah.
so just and everybody comes from a different place, the different cultural backgrounds, different like even family to family, right? So yeah, just wondering, okay, so you're kind of at the point where you got a couple years where you want to work on some more career stuff, that sort of thing, and then you feel like you'll be ready and it'll be a good time.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say so.
Okay, cool.
Also, the thing that you mentioned about how like the first time you got the kids to play was like in Alterac Valley, and that really was like kind of like when I sparked it for me as well, because was ranking classic, right? And I didn't go all the way to 14, but I got to like 12 for the gear, and then that like
Uh-huh.
severely helped like your loot prospects in a 40-man raid. So I did that, and then when I was doing Alterac Valley grind, it was like the most mind-numbing thing ever. So I was like, man, if I ever had kids, I would just have them do this. And also, like, I think this is like a culture thing, right? Like, I wish at a certain point, because like both me and my brother were very like big gamers. I think he doesn't game as much now, and he's like older, but we are like huge gamers, but our parents are like not even close, right? They don't even touch video games, and like they consider video games like not good for you at all and stuff, right? So um when I look at Katsa's family, her family actually like her dad played like StarCraft and stuff, so like she got into gaming
I started gaming when I
relatively.
was like 3 or 4, and I
Yeah.
was playing StarCraft with my brother and my dad.
Cool.
Yeah, so I was like, this is like a very cool thing because it's so unusual in like Asian culture, right? It's so Asian culture is so study, 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 work, 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 get this thing done, get your education, and then on top of that, do your extracurriculars. You got to be like all aspect good thing, get into good college, do like this degree or whatever, and then it has never really been about like, well, if you ever want to like have fun with your kids and just like have a good time, right? And that just seems so unrealistic for like my family. So that whenever I had a family, I was like, wow, it would be so cool, because this wasn't like a thing until like I moved here, because like it's very very uncommon in China. But once you got here, and I was like, wow, there's so many families here that just like play games with each other. That's so unusual to me and looks so fun. I want to try that eventually, whenever I have kids. Um, so yeah, so like I thought that was cool. But then I think the burning question that I had that I always wanted to ask was like, how do you like juggle the time commitment of like, um, playing games sometimes and also like having this many kids, right? Because whenever we saw that, just having one kid
Yeah,
in
my
the family
brother's kid.
is already such a handful that
Sure.
it just seems so it seems like so much to have so many kids. And I think that's the reason why this generation has been like not as keen on having kids, and there's like
All of a
some
sudden my
statistics to
time is
prove
going to
that,
be
right?
gone, and yeah, well, some of it is early on, yeah, that's what you're in for, and for us, we have enough kids that we have our own ecosystem in a sort of way, so it's like, yeah, we're gonna have family time as an entire family every day, whether that's going to the park or going out for a hike in the hills or playing a board game or reading a book together. And we sit down at the dinner table every night together. And so there's gonna be family time, but then also our job as parents is not to entertain you. Sometimes we love having fun together. But there's enough of them that it's like, no, you need to learn how uh to exist in a community of people where you can have disagreements and solve those without violence. And so it's for us, time wise, in the beginning there was a lot of time, and there still is a lot of time that's after you finish paying the bills, after you've gotten whatever curricular stuff you need done. Maybe there's not a ton of time, but there is time. And how do we spend that time together in a way that benefits us all, and we all grow and learn from it. So there's a certain thing to be said for, if you have enough kids, there's a built-in friend group that they
Okay.
have.
So you're saying it's
You're
easier
saying
if
we
you have
should have
more
more
kids.
kids.
You guys should have the amount of kids that you're supposed to. I'm not going to tell anybody that they should. We have 7 kids.
Oh, wow.
At 3, I said, if you want to stop, there are things I can do. And my wife was like, no, I don't want to. I'll tell you when I'm done. And it's only after 7 that she's like, maybe I'm done. And we're not Mormon or Catholic, so it's not like the religious community that we're a part of says you have to have lots of kids, and it's strongly encouraged. But I came from a decently large family. She came from a family. It was just her and her brother, and so there is a point where, for us, I think at about 4, it was like, wow, we are completely overwhelmed. And now we're completely overwhelmed, but we're used to it. And we have a 7-month-old and a 12-year-old and everything in between. So there's the opportunity for, yeah, it's kind of self-sustaining in a sense. The kids help with dinner, the kids help with each other. It's crazy how language development, I feel like, has accelerated for each one of them, just because they have more people talking around them. That you see that explosion that comes to a kid when they start speaking, or when they go from to speaking full sentences or paragraphs. So it's not for everybody, for sure, to have a lot of kids, but and you're going to make a lot of sacrifices if you do. But I wouldn't trade any of them. I wouldn't. There's none of them that I'd say our life would be better if we'd had less. It would be different if we'd had less, but it wouldn't be better. So, and our only regret is that we didn't start having kids sooner. I was 27, I think, when we had our first, and my wife is 6 months younger than me. So, we're like, yeah, if we'd started a little earlier, I mean, in one sense, depending on your view on how the world works, we wouldn't have the kids that we have. But in another sense, it's like, why did we wait as long as we did? So
Why did you?
Anyway, because we wanted to be young and explore the things that we wanted to explore, and it took us a while. We knew each other for a decent amount of time before we got married, before we even started dating, and we had maturing to do and figuring out what we wanted to do, and some of it we wish we just figured out earlier. as
Okay.
I feel like anybody who lives for long enough hopefully comes to the point where they're like, if I could have learned that lesson earlier, the rest of my life would have been better. Hey, Ollie. So, yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for me, I started playing games with my family since a very young age. Even my mom plays, well, she didn't play StarCraft, but we played Mario Kart together a lot. And even without video games, we would play cards And then we would play like some board games, or we would play mahjong even. And there's just a lot of things that I like. I've always been family oriented because my family was very family oriented. And I always thought it was cool. So there's this thing we used to do where every Christmas we would play this game mode in StarCraft 2. It was called Nexus Wars. And basically, like, it's a 4-player game and you play against other players. But my dad, my brother, me, and my sister would just play that mode together all the time. And especially during Christmas, I don't know why, we were like, oh, it's Christmas, we have to do this. And I just remember, like, I had a computer, I think it was in one of the rooms, and then had another room next to it. It was my dad's computer, and my brother was in his room, and I think my sister was in the living room. So it was like all kind of connected around the same area. And then my dad would like yell across the house, like, "Hey, I need you to build this. I need you to do that." And then it was fun because it was basically like the entire house. We were like and we were all competitive too. Like, we always wanted to win. And then after we won, we would talk about it. Like, oh, remember when you did this? I remember when we did this. And it was really fun just like hanging out with the family and doing that. And that's why I want to have kids to do that with in the future. Don't know exactly how many. I do want at least like 3 or 4, because when I was young and my mom had, well, I have 2 siblings, so we have 3 kids. But my brother is like way older because he was born in China and they had a 1-child policy, so they couldn't have kids until they moved here. But I was just playing with my sister mostly, and we always wished we had like another 2 siblings to play with, so we could have like the 4. A lot of games are just 4-player games, so we would always wish that we had that.
Cool. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And I feel like we don't have a frontier anymore in the world, right? That's why people are talking about going to Mars or whatever.
Yeah.
It's harder to start a family farm, you know. Economically, family businesses can be rough, but it's cool that you can start team building and working on things together like this. Whether you're playing euchre or mahjong or WoW or whatever, and develop that camaraderie and teamwork that you're able to as a family. So I wish you guys the best and blessings as you head that direction. It'll be cool. It'll you know, if you're still streaming and stuff, it'll be cool to see how that all goes. It's a fun time.
It.
Yeah, we're thinking of starting IRL content, but it will take some planning, but might happen
Yeah.
soon, and you might see us doing things. Who knows?
Cool.
Before we end this, I have one more question for you. So, what I guess we kind of talked about this already, but what advice would you give to someone who also has kids but wants to like spend more time playing video games and or are afraid that they won't have as much time anymore?
So play with your kids when you can, and if you embrace parenthood, you won't miss the games. I think Tachi's learning this in terms of the IRL stuff
Yeah.
versus pushing, and pushing is fun, and you make it to the point where you may not have to take the hit. You know, there's people like, say, Sidu, right? Who's made a career out of WoW PvP, right? He has kids, he has a family, and it worked out to where he could keep pushing and competing at a high level while still having a family. Probably that's not going to be for most of us, but you know, when you come to the door and your kids say "Daddy's home" in the like most amazing voice, it's worth it. It's worth playing less games. It's worth taking a break or progressing at a slower level than you might want to on if it was just you, to be able to bring those little human beings along with you, and hopefully they end up better than you were in all regards. So it's worth it. It's going to be sacrifice, but you still get to have fun. You know, when we stream, there was a comment I made on YouTube. You get to see the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake. You know, like these are it's not all sunshine and roses. It's not all playing games. It's hard, but it's absolutely worth it for them for those moments when daddy's home or mommy's back or whatever it is. It's so worth it. and you'll still get to have fun. You'll still get to play games. And hey, you know, it's probably not for everybody. If you're very focused on that, and that doesn't interest you, then maybe that's not for you. But if you're like, oh, you know, I want to have kids maybe, but then I have to take all this, you know, I have to make all these sacrifices in these other places. It's worth it, especially if you're with a partner who's committed to raising those kids with you and you have shared values. There's just nothing like it. The biggest dopamine hit you get from WoW, the biggest dopamine hit you get from the loot drop that finally happens that you needed. It's nothing in comparison to the joy that can come from having kids and embracing parenthood. So, and you'll get to do both of those things together probably. So,
Of
yeah.
course.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. You answered it very well, and I'm so grateful that you were here to share that wisdom.
Hard earned. I've made a lot of I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm sure I'm still doing it. So, yeah.
To us, you seem
thank
very experienced.
Well, like I said, I'm a little bit ahead of you guys. I'm a little bit ahead of you. I'll probably hit the grave sooner than you, so hopefully I've gotten a little more wisdom than you guys. So, in some regards, you guys could coach me in terms of some WoW stuff right now. I'm sure.
We're down to help
you
out.
can.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. Do you have any final comments or?
You know, I think we're all looking forward to season 3, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Tachi's gonna be done, but I am still looking at season 3 stuff, of course.
Yeah, and you know, I enjoy whatever you're doing, and be excellent to the people around you. Let's keep the toxicity down when we can, and let's yeah. No, I thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope that your guys' stuff goes well, and yeah.
Thank you so
In
much.
life and in game. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for the audience, where can we find you on social media?
WoW Family Time is the username on Twitch and on YouTube.
Thank you so much. And that's gonna be in the episode.